Dad said you guys are giving him the kids on Tuesday. What, is something happening?
We are doing a little thingy. All right, we're live. Yeah, we're
Dad said
just
you guys are giving him the kids on Tuesday. What, is something happening?
we're just hanging. Is that you? Are you
Yeah,
echoing? You have to mute your YouTube now that we're live.
I'm
This is a
sorry.
profession. If nobody, thankfully, nobody's here yet, right? But this is a
No.
very professional stream.
It's our first one.
I
Well,
know it's our
no, it's not our
first.
first stream.
It's our
It's our
first. Yeah, it's
first.
our first YouTube stream. It doesn't show me view count in the chat. I gotta keep that up. I don't need this up though.
I can see the chat.
I don't know. I can see the chat too. I'm just trying to see how I want to organize my screen to have this thing going. I guess I can close. I can put OBS down. I don't need that open. And I can keep YouTube itself up.
Does that mean create a channel to join the chat?
You have to be a YouTube user?
I guess.
I don't know. Anyway, so this is, in live podcasting worlds, this is the filter in. This is where we just kind of chat and banter before we start when people are arriving. If anyone arrives, hopefully we will get some folks arriving. So what's new with you, Mare?
I've arrived.
Yes, I see view one. That must be you.
I'm just testing.
Oh, yes,
Testing.
there you go. You are in the chat. I see.
I thought it was going to use my handle, not my full name.
Oh,
It has my full name.
well, that's how you're listed on YouTube then. You gotta change your YouTube name.
Oh,
Yeah.
anyway, I'm good. How are you? How is the thespian life?
It's good. It's good. We did our so I'm not appearing yet because the other show hasn't opened, but I'm in two shows at once.
Are they
So
competing shows?
they're not. One is a
Oh,
full show that opens the 24th of March. So that's a full play. But the other one I've been doing is just a little half-hour dinner theater murder mystery. And we
are
actually
you the
close
murderer?
Sunday. What's that?
Oh, are you the murderer?
I'm the narrator.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a good job for you.
I run the show. I introduce things. I get the cast on and off the stage. I then wrap up the show at the end, and I get to ad lib the most and kind of play with the audience a little bit. So that's kind of fun.
Do you give them a good chuckle and chortle every now and then, or you play it straight? Are you a funny guy?
So my character is um, like I'm the sort of I'm a little pissy, I guess you would say. I'm the natty little narrator who's like annoyed with his actors, and he's like, come on, let's go. And I
Ah,
get them on and off, and so I have a little bit of an attitude towards my actors. But I
right.
play it nice towards the audience, and then when my actors come on, I'm like, get off the stage, come on. I'm like, oh, thank you, audience, we're getting off the stage now.
Sassafras.
Yes,
That
that's how I
works.
play the narrator character. But no, it's fun. We close Sunday. It's our last show, and the wine shop that we do it at is quite pleased, I guess, with what we've done, and so they want to do more shows over the
Cool.
summer. So I don't know. The directorial staff is trying to figure out if we can do more shows, if we can reprise characters, if we can do other sorts of things.
All
But
right.
we kind of need a better space to do it in. We're looking for a larger space, but there's limitations, and the shop needs a kitchen and or because we were like, well, we could do it on stage and you could bring the food over, but they're worried about food quality and whatnot. Oh, I didn't plug my computer in. This is gonna be a short stream if my computer dies.
Rookie mistake.
I know, right? So
Rookie
this is gonna look funny on
mistake.
the stream. So why don't I think I will. Let's see, can I turn my camera off? Will that work?
I guess you
Do I
can, and I'll
disappear from
sit
the
here
stream?
alone. Yeah,
Yeah,
try it. Let's see what happens.
I don't know. if I disappear from the stream or not. If not, I'm going to just sort of pop down and... No, I don't think I disappear from the stream. Whatever. I'm going to go into the desk and I'm going to plug my computer in. I'll be right back, stream.
Oh, that totally makes your background look better.
Okay. Cool. I'm looking at what happened here. Are we streaming currently? I think we are. Yes, I think we are. Okay, I think it reconnected it to where we lost it. That was really weird. Oh, it says we're live for 13 minutes. All right. Very nice. Okay, so we are running this thing.
We should just read. No one's gonna come.
Nobody's gonna come. I don't think so either. But we're gonna start reading. Yeah. Anyway, we're working out. So if you end up watching this back, because it'll be in our live stream folder on the channel, we are obviously working out the kinks of YouTube streaming. We used to stream and do live reads on RPAN on Reddit. And then, you know, after 2 years or whatever, Reddit just sort of unceremoniously killed their fun streaming platform that people had built community around. And it was kind of, people were like, I mean, we obviously had not, I think, streamed to that level, but I was very sad for a lot of the folks that ended up losing what they had built up over the 2 years on art. And they did it like with 30 days notice, basically. I mean, it was like all of a sudden they killed it.
Yeah, I didn't even understand what was happening, and then it was done.
Yeah.
It was like over.
Yeah, it was almost immediate from when they announced it. It really sad. But so that's why we're on YouTube now, and we're working out the kinks of YouTube streaming. And so we're gonna give this thing live. So the way these live reads work, we generally read them cold. Sometimes Mare's read ahead. I have not read any of this. This is 100% cold for me. And we alternate paragraphs as we go through. So we're going to start with chapter 10, which will be the next chapter that we actually put out in the pod. And we'll read for a little while, see how we feel, if we want to do 11. If not, we'll just go from there.
Yep.
All right. Chapter 10. Order could not readily be introduced into my thoughts. The voice still rung in my ears. Every accent that was uttered by Carwin was fresh in my remembrance. His unwelcome approach, the recognition of his person, his hasty departure, produced a complex impression on my mind which no words could delineate. I strove to give a slower motion to my thoughts, and to regulate a confusion which became painful, but my efforts were nugatory. I covered my eyes with my hand and sat, I know not how long, without power to arrange or utter my conceptions.
I had remained for hours, as I believed, in absolute solitude. No thought of personal danger had molested my tranquility. I had made no preparation for defense. What was it that suggested the design of pursuing my father's manuscript? If, instead of this, I had retired to bed and to sleep, to what fate might I not have been reserved? The ruffian, who must almost have suppressed his breathing to screen himself from discovery, would have noticed the signal, and I should have awakened only to perish with affright and to abhor myself. Could I have remained unconscious of my danger? Could I have tranquilly slept in the midst of so deadly a snare?
And who was he that threatened to destroy me? By what means could he have hid himself in this closet? Surely he is gifted with supernatural power. Such is the enemy of whose attempts I was forewarned. Daily I had seen him and conversed with him. Nothing could be discerned through the impenetrable veil of his duplicity. When busied in conjectures as to the author of evil that was threatened, my mind did not light for a moment upon his image. Yet has he not avowed himself my enemy? Why should he be here if he had not meditated evil?
He confesses that this has been his second attempt. What was the scene of his former conspiracy? Was it not he whose whispers betrayed him? Am I deceived, or was there not a faint resemblance between the voice of this man and that which talked of grasping my throat and extinguishing my life in a moment? Then he had a colleague in his crime. Now he is alone. Then death was the scope of his thoughts. Now an injury unspeakably more dreadful. How thankful should I be to how thankful should I be to the power that has interposed to save me?
That power is invisible. It is subject to the cognizance of one of my senses. What are the means that will inform me of what nature it is? He has set himself to counterwork the machinations of this man, who had menaced destruction to all that is dear to me, and whose cunning had surmounted every human impediment. There was none to rescue me from his grasp. My rashness even hastened the completion of his scheme, and I precluded him from the benefits of deliberation. I had robbed him of the power to repent and forbear. Had I been apprised of the danger, I should have regarded my conduct as the means of rendering my escape from it impossible. Such likewise seemed to have been the fears of my invisible protector. Else why that startling entreaty to refrain from opening the closet? By what inexplicable infatuation was I compelled to proceed?
Yet my conduct was wise. Carwin, unable to comprehend my folly, ascribed my behavior to my knowledge. He conceived himself previously detected, and such detection being possible to flow only from my heavenly friend and his enemy, his fears acquired additional strength.
He is apprised of the nature and intentions of this being. Perhaps he's a human agent. Yet, on that supposition, his achievements are incredible. Why should I be selected as the object of his care? Or, if a mere mortal, should I not recognize someone whom benefits imparted and received had prompted to love me? What were the limits and duration of his guardianship? Was the genius of my birth entrusted by divine benignity with this
Mm-hmm.
providence? Yeah. Are human faculties adequate to receive stronger proofs of the existence of unfettered and beneficent intelligences than I have received?
But who was this man's coadjutor? The voice that acknowledged an alliance and treachery with Carwin warned me to avoid the summer house. He assured me that there only my safety was endangered. His assurance, as it now appears, was fallacious. Was there not deceit in his admonition? Was his compact really annulled? Some purpose was, perhaps, to be accomplished by preventing my future visits to that spot. Why was I enjoined silence to others on the subject of his admonition, unless it were for some unauthorized and guilty purpose?
No one but myself was accustomed to visit it. Backward, it was hidden from distant view by the rock, and in front, it was screened from all examination by creeping plants and the branches of cedars. What recess could be more propitious to secrecy? The spirit which haunted it formerly was pure and rapturous. It was a fane sacred to the memory of infantile days, and to blissful imaginations of the future. What a gloomy reverse had succeeded since the ominous arrival of this stranger. Now perhaps is the scene of his meditations. Purposes fraught with horror that shun the light and contemplate the pollution of innocence are here engendered and fostered and reared to maturity.
Such were the ideas that during the night were tumultuously revolved by me. I've reviewed every conversation in which Carwin had borne a part. I studied to discover the true inferences deducible from his deportment and words with regard to his former adventures and actual views. I pondered on the comments which he made on the relation which I had given of the closet dialogue. No new ideas suggested themselves in the course of this review. My expectation had, from the first, been disappointed on the small degrees of surprise which this narrative excited in him. He never explicitly declared his opinion as to the nature of those voices, or decided whether they were real or visionary. He recommended no measures of caution or prevention.
But what measures were now to be taken? Was the danger which threatened me at an end? Had I nothing more to fear? I was lonely and without means of defense. I could not calculate the motives and regulate the footsteps of this person. What certainty was there that he would not reassume his purposes and swiftly return to the execution of them?
This idea covered me once more with dismay. How deeply did I regret the solitude in which I was placed, and how ardently did I desire the return of day. But neither of these inconveniences were susceptible of remedy. At first, it occurred to me to summon my servant and make her spend the night in my chamber. But the inefficiency of this expedient to enhance my safety was easily seen. Once I resolved to leave the house and retire to my brother's, but was deterred by reflecting on the unseasonableness of the hour, on the alarm which my arrival and the account which I should be obliged to give might occasion, and on the danger to which I might expose myself in the way of thither. I began likewise to consider Carwin's return to molest me as exceedingly improbable. He had relinquished, of his own accord, his design, and departed without compulsion. Surely, said I, there is omnipotence in the cause that changed the views of a man like Carwin. The divinity that shielded me from his attempts will take suitable care of my future safety. Thus, to yield to my fears is to deserve that they should be real.
Scarcely had I uttered these words when my attention was startled by the sound of footsteps. They denoted someone stepping into the piazza in front of my house. My newborn confidence was extinguished in a moment. Carwin, I thought, had repented his departure and was hastily returning. The possibility that his return was prompted by intentions consistent with my safety found no place in my mind. Images of violation and murder assailed me anew, and the terrors which succeeded almost incapacitated me from taking any measures for my defense. It was an impulse of which I was scarcely conscious that made me fasten the lock and draw the bolts of my chamber door. Having done this, I threw myself on a seat, for I trembled to a degree which disabled me from standing, and my soul was so perfectly absorbed in the act of listening that almost the vital motions were stopped.
The door below creaked on its hinges. It was not again thrust to, but appeared to remain open. Footsteps entered, traversed the entry, and began to mount the stairs. How I detested the folly of not pursuing the man when he withdrew and bolting after him the outer door. Might he not conceive this omission to be proof that my angel had deserted me, and be thereby fortified in guilt?
Every step on the stairs, which brought him nearer to my chamber, added vigor to my desperation. The evil with which I was menaced was to be at any rate eluded. How little did I preconceive the conduct which, in an exigence like this, I should be prone to adopt. You will suppose that deliberation and despair would have suggested the same course of action, and that I should have, unhesitatingly, resorted to the best means of personal defense within my power. A penknife lay open upon my table. I remembered that it was there, and seized it. For what purpose you will scarcely inquire. It will be immediately supposed that I meant it for my last refuge, and that if all other means should fail, I should plunge it into the heart of my ravisher.
I have lost all faith in the steadfastness of human resolves. It was thus that in periods of calm I had determined to act. No cowardice had been held by me in greater abhorrence than that which prompted an injured female to destroy, not her injurer ere the injury was perpetrated, but herself when it was without remedy. Yet now, this penknife appeared to me of no other use than to baffle my assailant and prevent the crime by destroying myself. To deliberate at such a time was impossible, but among the tumultuous suggestions of the moment, I do not recollect that it once occurred to me to use it as an instrument of direct defense. The steps had now reached the second floor. Every footfall accelerated the completion without augmenting the certainty of evil. The consciousness that the door was now fast, now that nothing but that was interposed between me and the danger, was a source of some consolation. I cast my eye toward the window. This, likewise, was a new suggestion. If the door should give way, it was my sudden resolution to throw myself from the window. Its height from the ground, which was covered beneath by a brick pavement, would ensure my destruction. But I thought not of that.
When opposite to my door the footsteps ceased. Was he listening, whither my fears were allayed and my caution were asleep? Did he hope to take me by surprise? Yet, if so, why did he allow so many noisy signals to betray his approach? Presently, the steps were again heard to approach the door. A hand was laid upon the lock and the latch pulled back. Did he imagine it possible that I should fail to secure the door? A slight effort was made to push it open, as if, all bolts being withdrawn, a slight effort only was required.
I no sooner perceived this than I moved swiftly towards the window. Carwin's frame might be said to be all muscle. His strength and activity had appeared in various instances to be prodigious. A slight exertion of his force would demolish the door. Would not that exertion be made? Too surely it would, but at the same moment that this obstacle should yield, and he should enter the apartment, my determination was formed to leap from the window. My senses were still bound to this object. I gazed at the door in momentary expectation that the assault would be made. The pause continued. The person without was irresolute and motionless.
Suddenly, it occurred to me that Carwin might conceive me to have fled. That I had not betaken myself to flight was, indeed, the least probable of all conclusions. In this persuasion, he must have been confirmed on finding the lower door unfastened and the chamber door locked. Was it not wise to foster this persuasion? Should I maintain deep silence? This, in addition to other circumstances, might encourage the belief, and he would once more depart. Every new reflection added plausibility to this reasoning. It was presently more strongly enforced when I noticed footsteps withdrawing from the door. The blood once more flowed back into my heart, and a dawn of exultation began to rise, but my joy was short-lived. Instead of descending the stairs, he passed to the door of the opposite chamber, opened it, and having entered, shut it after him with a violence that shook the house.
How was I to interpret this circumstance? For what end could he have entered this chamber? Did the violence with which he closed the door testify to the depth of his vexation? This room was usually occupied by Pleyel. Was Carwin aware of his absence on this night? Could he be suspected of a design so sordid as pillage? If this were his view, there were no means in my power to frustrate it. It behooved me to seize the first opportunity to escape. But if my escape were supposed by my enemy to have been already effected, no asylum was more secure than the present. How could my passage from the house be accomplished without noises that might incite him to pursue me?
Utterly at a loss to account for his going into Pleyel's chamber, I waited in instant expectation of hearing him come forth. All, however, was profoundly still. I listened in vain for a considerable period to catch the sound of the door when it should again be opened. There was no other avenue by which he could escape, but a door which led into the girl's chamber. Would any evil from this quarter befall the girl?
Hence arose a new train of apprehensions. They merely added to the turbulence and agony of my reflections. Whatever evil impended over her, I had no power to avert it. Seclusion and silence were the only means of saving myself from the perils of this fatal night. What solemn vows did I put up, that if I should once more behold the light of day, I would never trust myself again within the threshold of this dwelling.
Minute lingered after minute, but no token was given that Carwin had returned to the passage. What, I again asked, could detain him in this room? Was it possible that he had returned and glided unperceived away? I was speedily aware of the difficulty that attended an enterprise like this, and yet, as if by that means I were capable of gaining any information on that head, I cast anxious looks from the window.
The object that first attracted my attention was a human figure standing on the edge of the bank. Perhaps my penetration was assisted by my hopes. Be that as it will, the figure of Carlin was clearly distinguishable. From the obscurity of my station, it was impossible that I should be discerned by him, and yet he scarcely suffered me to catch a glimpse of him. He turned and went down the steep, which, in this part, was not difficult to be scaled.
My conjecture then had been right. Carwin has softly opened the door, descended the stairs, and issued forth. That I should not have overheard his steps was only less incredible than that my eyes had deceived me. But what was now to be done? The house was at length delivered from this detested intimate. By one avenue might he again re-enter. Was it not wise to bar the lower door? Perhaps he had gone out by the kitchen door. For this end he must have passed through Judith's chamber. These entrances being closed and bolted, as great security was gained as was compatible with my lonely condition.
The propriety of these measures was too manifest not to make me struggle successfully with my fears. Yet I opened my own door with the utmost caution and descended as if I were afraid that Carwin had been still immured in Pleyel's chamber. The outer door was ajar. I shut it with trembling eagerness and drew every bolt that appended it. I then passed with light and less cautious steps through the parlor, but was surprised to discover that the kitchen door was secure. I was compelled to acquiesce in the first conjecture that Carwin had escaped through the entry.
My heart was now somewhat eased of the load of apprehension. I returned once more to my chamber, the door of which I was careful to lock. It was no time to think of repose. The moonlight began already to fade before the light of the day. The approach of morning was betokened by the usual signals. I mused upon the events of this night, and determined to take up my abode henceforth at my brother's. Whether I should inform him of what had happened was a question which seemed to demand some consideration. My safety unquestionably required that I should abandon my present habitation.
As my thoughts began to flow with fewer impediments, the image of Pleyel and the dubiousness of his condition again recurred to me. I again ran over the possible causes of his absence on the preceding day. My mind was attuned to melancholy. I dwelt with obstinacy for which I could not account. I dwelt with an obstinacy for which I could not account on the idea of his death. I painted to myself his struggles with the billows and his last appearance. I imagined myself a midnight wanderer on the shore, and to have stumbled on his corpse, which the tide had cast up. These dreary images affected me even to tears. I endeavored not to restrain them. They imparted a relief which I had not anticipated. The more copiously they flowed, the more did my general sensations appear to subside and calm, and a certain restlessness gave way to repose.
Perhaps, relieved by this effusion, the slumber so much wanted might have stolen on my senses, had there been no new cause of alarm. All right, so that's chapter 10. A lot of
Questions.
yeah, she's
So
a
many
lot of
questions,
assumptions.
girl.
Yeah, she definitely lives in her own head a lot.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm glad how she just left. What's her servant's name? Judy?
Judith, like Judith.
Judith?
Yeah.
She's like, he's probably gonna go get her. Nothing I can
Oh,
do.
poor girl. Nothing I can do about it though. Man.
Sorry, Judith.
Yeah. All right, so that was chapter 10, folks. What are you feeling? You want to do any more, or you want to call it good for tonight?
11's pretty long.
Is it? Okay.
It's
So let's
pretty
call
long.
it good for tonight. So yeah, we want to just these live streams we shoot for probably every other week. I think is when they'll. So generally, how our podcast flow, a little peek behind the curtain here, folks, is we'll read chapters one week into your feed, and then we will discuss them the other week. So because Mare and I obviously read the chapters separately and, just bring them together for release that week, during our normal podcasting discussion time on the weeks when we don't have to discuss is when we would do this. Now, normally it's Fridays at 1600 Eastern Time, Eastern Standard.
Nobody knows what you just said.
Eastern.
How many military people you think are watching this? The whole army is like, I'm gonna tune into this podcast. Just say 4 o'clock like a normal human.
Quick tip: the rest of the world uses 24-hour time. We're the weird country that doesn't. We use the
because we have so many international viewers too.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple people from England. Come on, at least. But yeah, so 4 p.m. U.S. Eastern is on Fridays is normally when we pod. Won't be able to this next week, but it will be a discussion week anyway. So probably our next, what was that? 7 plus 4 is the 13th. So probably March 13, 14, somewhere in there. That Friday, the second Friday in March is probably our
Dad's
next
birthday. Happy
live
birthday.
stream. Happy birthday, Dad. Is when our next live stream will be. So keep your eye out for that. Watch our social media. We'll put out announcements confirming as we get a little closer. And, hopefully we'll get some live streaming in. All right. Anything else before we sign off here, Mare?
No.
All right. Well, we will see you next time, folks. Next episode in your feed will be our discussion of 6 through 9. Chapter 6 through 9 discussion is coming out next week. All right. Take care.
Did we already talk about that? Do we have to talk